What's going on, my beautiful humans? Welcome back to another episode of One Too Many with your host, Kyle Glenn. That's me. Hey, look at that. Woohoo! This week's episode was nothing short of amazing. My great friend, Aaron Robin, is on the show. I called him Aaron Robin in the episode. That was a little slip of the tongue, but also people call him Aaron Robin at work, so I'm not going to fucking fret about it. But anyways, this week's episode was so amazing. This man is so knowledgeable. We talked about his life and balance, his work-life balance with bartending and being a professional dancer for several years. We talked about his transition into making cocktails for the dance company that he was working with, and then into the pandemic in 2020, where he started hosting Zoom classes on how to make cocktails for corporate events and corporate companies. We also spoke about his work in production. He does a lot of content creation for a company called Refinery 29 in partnership with Cheeky Cocktails, who you can look up online. He's been creating cocktail menus. He's been creating his own recipes. He's been doing all of his own content all over Instagram and Facebook. You can check this man out on Instagram at Someone's Problem. Super simple. Aaron Robin. You're going to have a wealth of knowledge in cocktail courses, in building cocktails, and also the history of cocktails and where they came from in this episode, and what it's like to be a bartender and specifically a mixologist in New York this year and for the last 9 years. Everybody please welcome Aaron Robin to One Too Many. Salud. Anyways, brother, I'm glad that you're here.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You probably thought you were going to be in some crazy studio. No, I'm just playing.
Oh.
Welcome to my humble abode.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. I tried to make you feel super comfortable with the 1940s music, the 30s. Feel like we're in a speakeasy, but we're not.
Yeah. The leather couch really, that like was the cherry on top.
Yeah. I just need to add a little plastic to it.
Yeah. You feel like grandma's leather couch.
So it becomes grandmother's leather couch, exactly. Don't put your fucking feet on it.
Yeah.
And I need a cigarette ashtray, which I actually have over there. But I need to get a good crystal one.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The fucking light next to you is perfect, though.
Oh, it is. Oh, my gosh. I think that might be the same one that my grandfather had.
It's a touch one. But I have it unplugged right now. It's not going to work.
Okay.
We can do that afterwards, though.
We've got a big plan for afterwards.
Yeah, big plans. No, I wanted to bring you on the show because we've been working together for several years now.
Yeah.
We started working together either in 2000. I came over to Tots in 2018.
Yeah.
Or no, I think I came over in the winter of 2017. Yes.
Yeah.
December of 2017, I came over.
Yeah.
That's when Jeremy was still there. And
I think I started in 2018.
Yeah.
So that might be when we...
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Where were you working before that?
I was downstairs. I've been at the Standard for like 9 years.
Okay.
8.5 years.
That's right. Were you only at the Standard, though?
I worked at like a few other little restaurants, but then like just for like short stints, but I just kept the Standard for a very long time.
Okay.
I had a dance career as well, so I was like...
Right.
Anywhere that would let me take a month off and then come back, I was like, all right, I'll just stay there.
That's
the Standard was the only place.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I got to say, of all the places that I've worked, they are most definitely the best at like making things work for their staff.
Yeah.
Because they all know that everyone there has that's just a side hustle for them.
Yeah.
It's just their moneymaker.
Yeah.
As it is for me, as an actor, as a photographer, as supposedly a podcast host.
So far, so good. You're doing it.
I do a lot of other things, but it's like it's the best place that I have worked at in terms of letting their staff really pursue their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how busy you used to be as a dancer, and I don't know how much dancing you're doing now. Even I don't really see you doing a whole lot, but
yeah, I danced for a company called The Feather Theory. They're still going, and they're incredible, and I really loved working with them. It was all dance theater media stuff, and like all based on Andy Warhol philosophies. And the big question was like, do we create culture, or does culture create us? And looking at pop culture and creating shows about it, which was really brilliant and like fun to be involved in, and like rehearsals were very like thought based, and like, you know, it wasn't like show up, learn this phrase, and then piss off. But it was like reconsidering like what would a chorus line look like if Andy Warhol made it, like recreated his own version. And it was a lot of like thinking and sitting and talking, and it was really great work. But in early March 2020, the company was going through a lot of changes. They were hiring a bunch of new people, which was very strange for us. We were 7 people for years. And there were just a lot of changes where it was becoming like more of a job and less of like a family of like vaudevillian dancers, like
reptiles.
Putting together stuff. Yeah, exactly. Just like making stuff happen.
Yeah.
And so my director and I sort of like mutually decided that we would separate, and like I would not work for them anymore for now in this capacity. And so I left early March 2020, and then the world said, well, if Aaron's not dancing, no one can dance.
That's a fact.
That is exactly what happened.
There's no more dancing.
I'm so sorry.
That's why I haven't seen any dancing in a music video lately.
No.
Nothing. There's no shows going on. That's why Broadway shut down.
Exactly.
Everything. All because of you.
Yep. I'm so sorry. I'll dance, I swear.
This is your impact on the world. This is how important you are.
I would like to believe that. I would like to believe that I would have a better impact, but that sort of power is what I'm looking for. Yeah,
that's crazy. And so you were how heavy of a workload was that? As you know, you said there's only 7 of you in the company.
Yeah, and it would switch out. It was sort of like project dependent, but most of us were there for all of it. We did a show about every 9 months. So I think in the like 5 to 6 year period that I was with them, we did 7 shows. And so we would like have a month at Martha's Vineyard at a residency, and then do the show like a month after that. And we would have like tech in between that. So I would leave the Standard for like a month, and then be back for 2 weeks, and then leave for 2 weeks and do the show, and then come back, and they would just be like, "Oh, good, you're back, great."
Yeah,
like,
yeah, they're very freaking loyal to the people. I mean, obviously, the great bartenders first and foremost. You know, they're going to keep anybody who knows what the hell they're doing and knows how to serve, but also someone who's been loyal to them and who doesn't fuck around and show up late and, you know, blah 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 blah. But what does that look like for you? Like, what was your life work balance as a bartender during that time? Because, you know, the grill had different hours than Le Bon, right?
Yeah.
Le Bon, we're going till 4 a.m. I don't know what time the grill used to close, but what did that look like for you? Like, what was a week for you, bartending and dancing?
Yeah. I was actually just looking over old schedules that I still have in my email for some reason. And
you're not there anymore.
Well,
just quit living in the past.
I was just like, let's just see, like, what was this person who was making like $300 bussing at a restaurant a week? Like, how was I alive? Like, what did I do? Because I think when I first moved to New York, I had 2 internships, 2 jobs, and then I started dancing for the company. And I think like some of those fell off, and like, thankfully I made some decisions, which was always hard for me to like say, I can't do this anymore, I'm quitting.
Right.
But in terms of timing, it was always really difficult. I think my first year was just figuring out how to schedule my life, because it was like the first time that I was having to do it for myself. And yeah, there was a lot of like crossover and running into each other. A lot of days where like I go to work at 6 a.m., get off at 2, and then go to rehearsal at 4 and rehearse from like 4 to 10.
Go to work at 6 a.m.?
Yeah. So like at the Plaza, they do breakfast. So I was like, I'll take like, depending on the rehearsal scheduling, I would be like, let me work anything that works around these times. And as I've gotten older, that's become harder. So I'm like, no. Okay, I'm not working the same day as like a rehearsal or now I do like photo shoot stuff. And I'm like, there's no need for me to spend 10 a.m. to like midnight doing anything.
Right.
I can do one thing a day and have some time.
So you'd wake up and go to work at 6 a.m. And then what?
And then get off at 2 and go to rehearsal from 4 until about 10 p.m.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be expected in rehearsal to show up with the energy and like mental clarity
1,000%
to help write a script.
1,000%
was going to be the show.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fucking passion. That's what we do out here. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, that's what everybody does when they come out here. That's the New York grind that a lot of people listening or, people who haven't lived here don't really understand. Like, they know and that's why a lot of people don't move here, because they're afraid to work that hard. They're afraid to put themselves out there. They're afraid to take those chances. Yeah. And, I can relate to the same thing. It's like when I moved here, it was, I had a separate job down at the back room down on the Lower East Side, but once I got, I'll just speak for the Standard specifically, but yeah, I was working 4 days a week, working until 5:30. We don't, close at 4 o'clock, don't get out till 5:30, 6 a.m. Yeah. Wake up in the morning. I'm going to auditions at like 9:30, 10 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. Some of them modeling auditions where, castings, but, where I'm not really having to act, but you have to look good.
Yeah,
and
you have to look like you slept that night.
Thank God I was youthful and it could still work, but that, and then on top of going to the gym and staying healthy, on top of all the networking shit that I would be doing at night and all the classes that I would be in, just like your rehearsals, I'd be taking class 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes, depending, I'd have a weekly class that I would be in, and then sometimes I would pay a little extra and go to see a casting director or something like that, or an agent that I might want to see. And, that week I might have to be, memorizing 5 pages or, from like a Monday until like a Tuesday night. I would work at night, but have to memorize a 5-page script, audition the next night on top of working, on top of going to, do all these other things. Like, it's crazy. But,
I remember on like slow days, then when I became a bartender, I was like in the box, which is like the service bar in the very back. You're basically like in the kitchen making drinks. And I remember slow days, I would just sit there and like study my script.
Totally.
And like, on other days I would just watch movies. But for the most part, I was like doing something productive, because I was like, okay, this time is like not being used by these people who are paying me. So I might as well be standing here at the ready, but like still being productive for myself.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah. I spent many hours studying scripts while I was bartending. Yeah. Anytime it's slow, phone's out, or I like to print my sides. So yeah, I'd bring them to work, pull them out whenever it's slow, just study while you're sitting there. Yeah. Were you bartending? Because you came, hold on, so you grew up in Miami.
Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale. And you came to New York from Florida?
Yeah, so I went to FSU and I studied dance. And I was there for 3 years and a summer. And I had enough credits, other than, I think I needed 7 credits that could have been anything. And so I came to New York and did 2 internships, and I wrote a grant for my 7 credits. And which was like my own like time management, figuring out all of that stuff. That's that period where it's like, how do I schedule all of this stuff and make it work? And I did, I guess. I got the degree. And and then I was here in New York.
Cool. And were you bartending before that?
No.
You weren't bartending in college at all?
The most bartending I ever did was my roommate would throw these like blacklight parties, and I would walk around with a handle of Jack Daniels and pour it down people's throats. So like very different from what.
Very extensive.
Yeah.
Extensive work.
Yeah. No speed pour insight, just like making freshmen guzzle Jack Daniels. Yeah. I thought it was the most badass thing I could do.
You felt like the man of the hour.
Yeah.
Man of the party.
Yeah. I mean, I also knew like even this Jack Daniels has like a deep symbolic value to me. Like I like was obsessed with Lady Gaga, like every gay teen in 2010. And I she had this show with Lady Starlight who would like pound a bottle of Jack Daniels on stage and then like do a show. And they were like go-go dancers together, and they would like light hairspray on fire in like the Lower East Side. And I just remember like reading about this and like seeing interviews, and then like going really deep into like New York nightlife and like learning about like Amanda Lepore and Darian Darling doing all this makeup stuff, and like
Darian.
just absolutely incredible people. And then becoming obsessed with that and being like, oh, that's mine. Like I got to go find that.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I was like, okay, 3 years in Tallahassee, Florida is enough. I'm out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So was the Standard your first job as a bartender?
Yeah. I like got off a plane and came to the Standard, and I was like, give me a job, please.
Wow, that's crazy. And they hired you as a bartender?
No, I was a busser.
You were a busser?
I was a server, and
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's right. You did make your. Now that you're saying it, now I remember you talking about that a little bit. Yeah. I know you said busser earlier, making $300 a week or $300 a night or whatever, but it didn't click for me then. That's crazy. So you worked your way up just like a couple other people in the company who now manage.
So weird. We've all just been you know, climbing the ship, I guess.
Yeah, but you're not only bartending now. You're doing plenty of other stuff. Obviously, as we talked about, the dancing hasn't been as prevalent. You still do it behind the bar. You know, this man's doing splits and high kicks and shit, and I'm sitting there like trying to jiggy and, make my money.
I just have to keep the tip percentage very high, and I feel like on certain nights that works in our favor.
It does.
And so I use it.
It does. But, you've been doing a lot of like content creation for brands like what, Cointreau and I think Bacardi, or who else? Cointreau is a big one for you, right?
Cointreau does a lot of we do a lot of their social media stuff. So a lot of the brands that are more prevalent on like Instagram specifically.
Which are?
So Cointreau, Botanist.
Botanist Gin.
Grand Marnier we've done.
Love Grand Marnier.
I'm trying to think of my bar at home. Oh, of course. I know. I think about you every time I look at a bottle of Grand Marnier now. So you may be the only person that's like, let's do shots of Grand Marnier specifically.
Let's do it.
Yeah. And it's great.
Shout outs to Moe's Irish Pub, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Jake Taylor, I love you, brother. You got me hooked on that shit. But anyways, keep going.
Get it. I love that. So now I've basically built out my home bar with all of the extra liquor from all of these shoots. But it actually started because of my dance career. I made cocktails for every single one of our shows, and that were sort of represented by the show. So like in one of the shows, we were all in morph suits the whole time, like full body covered suits, and we did a recreation of an SNL episode that never aired called the Love Episode. Oh. And like we would change on the sides, like just like they do in SNL when you like watch the dress rehearsal live, they're like changing on the sides, like everything's happening right in front of you.
Yeah.
And so we did that as part of the show, but we kept these morph suits on the whole time because we were these just like archetypes of people. They didn't want us to be like, this is Aaron. It was like, this is, it doesn't matter who this person is underneath the morph suit. This person is just playing like the role for you, and you can place whoever you want on top of them. So for the cocktail, I made these ice balls that I pulled all the liquid out of the inside. So it was just this empty sphere of ice. And then I injected them with like dyed cocktails. So it was like a red one and then a yellow one and an orange and green. And then I put those in the glass with like Prosecco on top in like separate cocktails. So
That's fucking awesome.
I made all these drinks for different events for us. And I was like, we should make a book. So I worked with our photographer from the company, Kate Enman, love you. And she's incredible. So I was like styling all these things and really like building out these tiny sets because they're for cocktails, but not once thinking that I was a prop stylist or set designer, but I was like, oh, like cotton candy clouds for this one. And like, just, we would have these like really creative Saturday afternoons where I would just come in and like, we would shoot 5 cocktails a day. And then a friend came to one of the shoots and she was like, do you know that you're like set designing? And so she worked for Refinery 29 and she was like, come style for me here. And that's how I ended up like actually having jobs doing that.
That's crazy. Refinery 29. Explain to me and the audience what Refinery 29 is.
They're Refinery 29 is a media outlet. They do articles. They do. It's kind of like BuzzFeed-esque. They have a lot of specific hosts that do specific shows. Like, I think there's one called 5 Days with Lily. I think her name's Lily. I got to look into it. But she basically does like, she'll try something for 5 days. So she'll, if it's, I think she's done one with Spindrift and she's like, every day for 5 days, I'm going to drink Spindrift. And like, that's how I'm going to get my water intake. And it was like early branded content. Like, I think they started in like the early 2010 era. And this was like before a lot of like big YouTubers and Instagrammers. So they sort of like hit it early.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Dang, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now you're doing all kinds of set design and photography for all these brands, and I see you posting on your Instagram all the time, just like, you know what? Let's address this right now.
What is this? What are we addressing?
All you motherfuckers who keep taking this man's idea about holding a martini glass on your foot that's elevated in the air, flat like this. Mm-hmm. His idea, okay? So fuck all. We need to get a little copyright on that bitch.
Yeah, we do. Those are actually the shoes that I was wearing.
I know they are. Can we get those shoes? Can we grab them? Get them in. Because I know you love those shoes. He said, "I love these shoes." The New Balance. Look at these things. Jaden Smith.
Will Smith's kid.
Will Smith's son. Collaboration with New Balance. If you ever see a photo on Instagram or anywhere on the internet with that beautiful foot upside down with a martini or a coupe on it,
that was me.
Just know it's him.
That was me.
And it was his idea first, you motherfuckers. So quit stealing it.
But you know what? It was hard enough to do that anyone who does it and can do it, I'm like,
props.
More power to you.
Yeah, I feel that.
Go for it. Enjoy.
That's good.
Thanks.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm with that. They deserve it as well.
Yeah.
It looks difficult. I'm sitting there looking at that picture. I'm like, how?
Like long Achilles. It's a lot of.
You have to have a long Achilles for sure.
That's what it is.
I don't have that much flexion in my foot, in my ankle.
Dancer.
Yes.
I got a degree in it.
Again,
so
we
like
talked
I have
about
to, something's got to be flexible.
We'll go back to the dance. Yeah. We talked about that earlier.
It's always there.
That's fucking awesome. But what I'm loving about you and like your journey in the service industry since I've known you and from what I know about your past is just that like you're creative with it. You love creating new cocktails. Like you're a serious mixologist. I don't consider myself a mixologist. Like you know a bunch of shit about cocktails. I know a little amount of shit about a lot of cocktails.
If you can make it, that's all we need you to do. But yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not there to create you a nice cocktail, even though I can.
Yeah.
I'm there to I'm there just to be there, right?
Yeah,
I'm
you're there for the
there,
good time.
I'm there to have fun.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And everybody knows that we work with. You know, that's my role.
And that's our vibe. We need that.
Yeah. Everybody needs that.
Yeah.
Every good bar needs that. You need the person who takes that shit seriously or has like fun with it and is creative.
Yeah.
Then you need the motherfuckers that just look pretty and just stand there and, you know, want to have fun.
But unfortunately, the person... Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I mean, but an icon. I can't wait for her to be...
An icon.
I can't wait for her to own her own space in like 2 years.
Seriously, what the fuck is going to happen?
It's for the listeners, like, she is 19 and she is killing it.
Destroying.
She's bartending. She has my job and she does it better than me.
Destroying, I don't know how.
Yeah. I would be mad if I wasn't just so enamored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find Nika at the Standard Hotel, everybody. I'm exposing her. But anyways, what's it? I mean, it's cool, and I want to talk a little about your journey into cocktail creation.
Yeah.
And what that looks like and what that means to you, because you're the first mixologist to come on the show, right? And I consider you a mixologist, and I hope you consider yourself a mixologist, considering that you are right now in the second round of the top 100 bartenders in, what, the U.S., right?
So far. Presented by Diageo.
Presented by who?
Diageo.
And who's Diageo?
Diageo is Johnny Walker, Don Julio, Tanqueray, Kettle One, a lot of other brands. They are all of the big liquor names that you know and love, likely Diageo products.
Diageo is the big conglomerate that owns them. Yeah.
And they're great. They're really great within the bar community. I have a very good friend, Adrienne Smith, who she works for Enthuse, which is their marketing company. And so she actually was the one that told me that I should apply for this. And I was like, I think I've sent a few things in for bartending competitions. That was like maybe one of the first cocktail videos I ever made was for a bartender competition. And I was like, oh, I think this is fun. And like that might have actually also sparked a lot of the work that I do just for my personal page.
Right.
But I never really thought it was like possible or serious or for me. And I thought, you know, these people who are winning are like networking constantly. They know what's like on brand and what's going on. And then I've been out with her a lot. She's taken me to a lot of events for Diageo, and I sort of hadn't thought that I was like doing this big networking circle thing. And like, I you know, I'm just there. I'm enjoying it. It's like, you know, espresso martinis and a good time and a bunch of people who like drinks and talking about drinks, which is me. And so when she told me to do it, I was like, sure. I mean, if you say so, like you know better than anyone I know.
Right.
And I think getting through the first round was really just following the rules very carefully.
Oh, okay.
So
how many people got knocked off though?
I don't know. That's my thing. I am getting my.
It's like the Squid Games of bartending competitions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll see. But I do like that they send you your feedback from your first round, and I haven't gotten it yet, but like they're working on sending it over.
Yeah.
So, and I really appreciate that for anyone. And I think like coming from the dance world where so many dancers send in audition tapes, or like choreographers send in grants, and like feedback is not a thing. It's
Crickets.
just yes or no.
Crickets.
And you can ask, but
nothing.
And so
same in the acting world.
Yeah. It's like disheartening, because you're like, how am I supposed to grow in any like real way if no one's telling me why?
Right.
So
especially
I really
from the
appreciate
people who are casting it.
Right.
It's like, what are you looking for? But that's, you know, I think that's a big, at least for the acting world, it's a big plus, because you can go to these seminars that you can pay for with a prominent casting director, and you can take a class with them, right? You can take those classes, you can take those seminars, whether it be a couple weeks or whether it be one night, and like 25 people are in the room with you, so you're hearing his or her feedback or their feedback on every single person. So you're getting to know exactly about that one casting director. Now every casting director is different, right? Yeah. So it's still subjective. Like you don't really, it can go both ways, but there's those certain things that will remain through everybody. But yeah, you never hear back sometimes you do though. Sometimes it's like, we really love this tape, but production wanted to go in a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah, the like close but no cigar things.
Which is totally cool, which you have to take with a grain of salt because you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, so you sent in your tapes, you're in round 2.
Yeah.
I have 2 questions. One of them is for you. Number 1, why am I not in this?
Is that the one for me or is that the one for...
Why didn't you tell me about this?
Okay.
Answer the cameras, please.
Okay. On the day that I found out about this...
It's your close-up on the left, by the way.
Oh, hello.
Yep.
I see you. I found out mere days before the application was due, and I did not see Kyle in those days. Another thing is, I don't think that I was ready for that kind of competition in my game. So I thought I would wait until next year when I would tell Kyle to apply for this. How's that?
That's very
Is that the lie you wanted?
That's the lie I wanted.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's happy. I got him.
That's better than anything I could have asked for.
Perfect.
Question number 2 is for Hennessy. Why haven't you casted me in one of your commercials yet, considering that I've sent you perfect audition tapes, just like him and I have been speaking about, of me bartending, just like the one that he sent for the top 100 for Diageo, of me making a motherfucking blood and sand, which I've made 1,000 times. I've told you I'm a bartender at the Boom Boom Room, at Le Bon, at Pastis, at all these fucking great places in New York. What's happening, Henny? What's happening, Henny?
And can I style that shoot whenever it happens?
And when it happens, can we please hire this man?
Thank you.
Okay. We can proceed.
Okay.
Questions are over.
We got all of our...
That's the end of the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. This is really just a vessel for us getting hired.
Well, kind of.
I mean, everything is. That is
not gonna lie. That is a little part of it. To be real.
Yeah, no, don't lie. That's valid.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
I just realized my mic was almost coming apart there. Thank God it was still recording.
It was off this whole time.
Yeah, I know.
It was gonna be a really interesting one-sided conversation with me.
Your new host, Aaron Robin. Robinsky. Robin.
Like the bird.
Robinsky.
It was Rabinowitz. My grandfather changed it.
Yeah. That's right. That's what we talked about.
Yeah.
Which is funny because that's the last name of one of my great friends, Nati Rabinowitz. Yep. I was talking to him last night, actually. I was actually supposed to go see him, and he's also doing some work with Illegal Mezcal. He works at Illegal.
Oh, I love that.
Like part-time at their bar over in Greenpoint. Yeah.
Oh, so does my friend Cameron, who was at this is the tiniest little world. Everyone knows everyone. But he was our La Colombe brand ambassador. He taught me how to make a latte.
Oh.
Good guy.
Cool. Cameron. Shout out to Cameron. Thank you so much for
teaching
him how to anything.
Congratulations. That's hard.
Anything and everything. Cameron's just a man of all trades.
Yeah. But yeah, I do consider myself a mixologist.
Yeah.
And I think over quarantine, I used cocktails as an outlet to learn a lot. I started teaching cocktail classes,
right?
Which having the sort of like history of being head bartender at Top of the Standard really does help to sell that. I started doing work for Bank of America, for Salesforce. It was a lot of their like team meeting stuff.
Yeah,
getting to just like Zoom into a bunch of execs at Bank of America's houses and teach them how to make cocktails. It's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so dope.
Yeah.
And you were just doing that from home.
Yeah.
Over Zoom. That's right. And I'm glad you brought that up because I honestly totally forgot that you started doing that during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Very soon after it happened.
A lot of it was actually, I started doing just Friday classes on Instagram Live just because I was like, we all need something to do.
I remember that.
I need to remember what day it is. So if I do something every Friday, I'll remember.
Uh-huh.
And then that became every Monday I would do a photo shoot with a cocktail, make a flyer, post that on Wednesday with like the ingredients that you would need for the cocktail class on Friday. And so that became like, I then had to learn more about photography and got into taking photos. And I'd been using a film camera, and I've switched to a Leica, like a little point and shoot Leica, but it was great. And then I learned a bunch about lighting and all of that just by doing with all that extra time.
Mm-hmm.
And then taught a class on Fridays, and then people started coming to it and realizing like, oh, he does this. And then I got hired by friends of friends who were like events coordinators, and they like a bunch of people were giving them asks for like Zoom events, and just people thought of me because
That's so crazy.
That's what I was doing.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it was fun.
The only way to get it done is just to do it.
Exactly.
Right? It's just
kind
to
of
get
annoying in that way.
It is, but then you always come out on the other end and you're like, fuck, man, I am so much stronger and knowledgeable and just well versed in, because you got to fail.
Yeah.
You got to go through those failures and like, you know, it's like a puzzle. You got to figure that puzzle out for yourself and try to make it work. Otherwise, how else are you ever going to learn?
Right.
You know?
And no one's going to ask you to do it until they've seen you do it.
Right.
Which I think is like...
And you got to be able to produce every time, especially once you're getting hired.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you got to know what the fuck you're doing if you're getting hired for something, right?
Yeah. I would get onto these Zoom calls and I would be like, running around, putting all my stuff together, making sure that I had like the juices and the ice and everything. And then I would sit down and I would be shaking every single time before all of these classes because I'm like, I don't know who these people are going to be. I don't know what they're going to be like. It's very different from like, you know, you get that like pre-bartending anxiety when you know it's a big party and you're like, I'm going to be 6 deep for the next 5 hours. So I'm like, I have to like breathe right now and figure out like, what do I need? Do I need like a coffee or something to make me stay positive throughout this? Because it's going to be hard.
Coffee's your choice typically?
Yep, just coffee. That is.
Well, not mine.
A Red Bull every now and then if we're feeling wild. But so getting that, but then also being like, I'm going to be the only person people are listening to on a Zoom call for an hour and a half. And I have to teach these people something, but I also have to entertain them, which is it's always the bigger thing. It's just being the fun, entertaining, knowledgeable person in the room and really like taking the reins on the room. And I'm like, these people are execs at Bank of America. They don't need to listen to me. All I know about is like shaking a cocktail.
They don't know shit about that though.
Exactly.
And they all want to know too.
And
everybody wants to know how to make a fucking cocktail.
Yeah. Everyone, I mean, thank God for Tom Cruise and cocktail.
But what were you going to say? You were going to say, and what?
Oh, and they're like already on their left foot a little bit because they're like, I don't know how to do this. And I imagine they're all very good at their jobs. So I think that being bad at something really puts you in this sort of like, I'm in charge. I will get you through this.
Definitely.
Just follow my lead.
Definitely.
You're like, come with me if you want to live.
Definitely.
And they do.
They do. And I think they do because, and I get to work with a lot of people like these because, you know, I work for Liquid Labs.
Yeah.
Shout out to Liquid Labs, Parker Bowes, Greg. I love you guys. If you don't know what Liquid Labs is, I'm also going to promote them right now because we're on it. But they also teach cocktail courses for corporate events. They also, will bartend your parties and blah, 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 just as this man will right here. But that's how I got my start into, aside from actually working at a bar, because those are they offer a couple different programs. It's like the do it yourself, right? So people will come up to our little station and we'll have like 5 shakers set up and they'll, do their thing and we'll walk them through how to make a cocktail just as you do over as you were doing over Zoom, or if you are still doing it. I'm not sure if you are, but
every now and then it depends. I mean, I think people are really excited about live in-person events again.
Yeah.
And this is toggling back and forth. And by the time people are listening to this, I don't know if that's true anymore. but
or we could be in the thick of it. Who knows?
Yeah. I might be teaching a lot more Zoom classes.
I got a question for you, though.
Yeah.
So when you're doing those, do you have people go out, like the people that are in the class, right? Do you have them go out and get the ingredients? You're like, this is what you're going to need to make this cocktail prior to the class?
So this is a good bridge. I also worked for a company called Cheeky Cocktails. I made a lot of their content over quarantine, and I would teach their cocktail classes. And Cheeky Cocktails, who we love, Cheeky Cocktails, love you, is a mixer company made by Gates and April Wachtel. Gates is the man who taught me how to bartend. They started originally as Swig and Swallow, which was like a pre-made sour mix, basically, that you just put together with your liquor and it's a cocktail. Cheeky is now separate ingredients that are shelf stable, but they are actual fresh lemon juice, actual fresh lime juice, high pressure pasteurized, I believe. They might use heat, but so they're shelf stable. And then just classic syrup. So like simple syrup, agave, honey, ginger, honey, and cranberry syrup.
Okay, cool.
And they just launched an espresso martini mix.
Nice.
Which is great. But they send kits to a lot of these people. So if it's a class that I did with Cheeky, they would send the kits, and then usually the client or someone organizing the event for the client would like send a drizzly order of the spirit.
Drizzly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just like an alcohol delivery service.
Got you. The perks of living in New York City.
Yeah, right. I mean, and these people are
listeners
all over the
from
world.
Fucking like middle of nowhere, Idaho is gonna be like, what? Drizzly. Wow, they get alcohol delivered?
No, they do it. I swear I've taught for someone in Idaho, I'm sure, and they got a drizzly order.
Maybe Boise.
Yeah, somewhere nice.
Maybe a real city.
I don't know anything about Idaho. I have nothing to add.
I'm just hating on all small towns right now. That's all.
Do it.
I'm just fucking kidding. I'm from a small town. I love all you guys.
Yeah.
And I hope to bring more opportunities like this and these experiences that we have here in the city back home. That's like a goal of mine. But
that's good.
Just had to say that.
We love small towns.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Where
we
were
do
we?
have drizzly. I think.
You're like drizzlies everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much everywhere, I think. Yeah, so that's how a lot of these kits get delivered is through Cheeky, or I've done my own kits where like I'll send like little shaker sets and like fresh fruit, and then we'll make like the simple syrup at home, or I'll send a grocery list.
Cool.
Which also got me into like some graphic design where I had to send these like recipe cards. And so I'd use my images, but also then make these graphics of like the recipe so that people could follow along with something on their phone as well. So just like
That's
steadily
super cool.
being like, how do I make this class more seamless and like more fun and more branded?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Damn, dude, that's really awesome.
Thanks.
That's really fucking cool. And where was I going to go with this? We were talking about Drizzly, the people, the Skype, and the actual class. I wanted to go back to the people because it's that interesting dynamic where, and I think that's a reason why I started this podcast is because everybody loves to drink.
Yep.
Not everybody, but the majority of people love to drink. They love to go to bars. They love to go to restaurants. It's a fucking experience. That's what makes good restaurants always so fun to go to. Their food is great. Their drinks are great. The service is great. Blah, 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 blah. The people are great. The crowd is great. The ambiance is great. And, you have so many people that love when they get a great cocktail, just as they do when they get great food. And, there might be, like say a paper plane, like at Pastis, they actually put like a tiny little paper plane on the side of the glass, right? It's connected to the glass. It's like, wow, that's such a cool little thing, but it enhances your experience so much. Plus the drink is fucking amazing, right? Yeah. And I'm relating this to starting the podcast because people do have such an interest in cocktails and food and beverage, considering how much we go out and we eat. And that's why I wanted to bring you on, because like we're getting a real taste of what it is to be a mixologist, what it is like to balance that world, the other projects that you have going on. And, they want to know how it is to make a cocktail. And that's why you started a class. So you can be like, yo, listen, this is a shaker. It's a Boston shaker set. This is how a strainer works. Yeah. This is the measurement of a jigger, right? You have a pour spout for your, because you give them it's fun because people go home. People are always taking the recipes home from, our classes and stuff like that. And then they go and show their friends, or they host a little party and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to make some cocktails tonight. Like, I know how to make a cocktail. It's like,
watch what I got.
That it's like they're the guy walking around with a bottle of Jack Daniels in a club in a little house party pouring shit in people's mouths. You know what I mean? Then they feel like that guy. They feel like you.
Yeah. And why would anyone ever want that? No.
But that's exactly why I started this podcast, because it's like people want to know that. They want to feel that. They want to know what that life is like.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is special about this podcast, and special about you and having you on here as a guest, and all the people around me that I work with and that I deal with on a daily basis and I put up with and can't fucking stand working with. No, I'm just kidding.
Fair.
But so I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we spoke about that. Now, I think what we should talk about now is, what makes a good cocktail for you? And like, what are your favorite things to use as a mixologist? But let's start with the basics, and let's tell people what it really, the 4 or 5 basic things that you need to have a base of a cocktail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is you said everyone loves to drink, and it's true, not everyone loves to drink, but everyone loves a well-crafted drink, whether it's alcoholic or not. So I think to make a great cocktail, this is earth-shattering, but you may not need alcohol. We're not sure. Jury's still out. If you want it, have it. If you don't want it, you don't need it. So I think that's sort of accessible to anyone in that way. But it, there's these templates. I always teach a sour cocktail, a stirred cocktail, and then a spritz. So something that is shaken and sour usually has lemon or lime juice, some kind of sugar, and then the spirit. The stirred cocktail, we usually do a very simple old fashioned. So something sweet, which is your sugar, bitters, and the spirit itself.
And what are bitters, Aaron?
Bitters they're actually very, very old. It's a long standing thing. It's a tincture using herbs.
Tincture.
And they use wow, you're throwing me off. They use alcohol usually to extract flavors from things like roots and herbs.
A very strong alcohol. Yeah. Correct?
So for Angostura, it's 44%. And so the Angostura recipe is very, very secret. They have a little known fact. They have an agreement with customs that when they ship things back and forth between the UK and Trinidad and Tobago, because the company's in the UK and they're produced in Trinidad and Tobago, they ship them in these black leather bags, and customs will not check them. They let them ship whatever it is because they can't let the secret get out. Spooky.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
bodies.
crazy. I never knew that.
Creepy, right?
That's really crazy.
Yeah.
If anybody knows, or if anybody wants to know, we're talking about Angostura, as he's mentioned. Angostura, if you are getting a Manhattan or especially an old fashioned anywhere in the United States and pretty much anywhere in the world, it's going to be made with Angostura. Like that's the base bitter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as he said, made with usually higher alcohol content, spirit, a lot of herbs, roots, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Spices, whatever it might be. You have hellfire bitters, celery bitters, orange bitters, Angostura, which is their own, obviously, specific recipe.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah. So
you have the stirred cocktail, the sour cocktail, and then
I do something like a spritz, either like then just a sour that's topped with some soda, which at the time when it was made, big game changer. Your Tom Collins, your early origin of a margarita, in that the margarita story is a very long one, but it started as basically a whiskey sour, but topped with a splash of soda. And that was considered a modifier. And then the modifier changed from soda to grenadine to orange liqueur. And the spirit changed from whiskey to gin to then when drinking in America wasn't allowed anymore and people went to Mexico to drink, they switched to tequila. And instead of lemon juice, which you usually use in a whiskey sour, it switched to lime juice because in Mexico, limes are much more available. And so they were making a drink that was sugar, lime, orange liqueur, and tequila. And they were calling it a daisy, which in Spanish is margarita.
Oh, wow.
And that all began in New York in like the early 1800s, in around Wall Street.
Wow.
That's where the daisy cocktail came to be.
Around Wall Street. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Early 1800s.
Yeah. I want to say 1886, actually, so late 1800s. But
wow.
Yeah. And then it just kept changing and changing and changing. And then in the 20s, when drinking wasn't allowed, people went to Mexico and started drinking there. And the margarita.
That's insane.
It's wild, right?
I love that you know the history of these cocktails.
I also taught a class called The History of the World Through Booze. So I did a lot of like reading about. I feel like alcohol is just such a fun medium for like anything. If it's like
it's crazy
being creative with what you're putting into a drink, or reading about the history of the world. It's like booze is a really fun lens to be like, oh, people were drunk all like throughout history. It's not new. Like, and I always say that
go ahead,
alcohol sort of went through this back and forth thing where it started as ritual and then it became like medicinal, and then it went back to ritual and medicinal, and like now of course we are in a ritual phase because we're like it is a cultural ritual, and I don't think anytime soon we're going to think that it's a medicinal thing, but historically that's sort of been the toggle. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. And I believe, if I'm right, beer was also invented by the Egyptians, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So there's this mix called King's Tut's mix. I think it's King Tut's something. And Lion's Head has recreated it, or Dogfish Head has recreated it, and it was the early mix of mead, beer, which early beers, and wine, which they were drinking in Egypt. And there's this incredible historian named Peter McGovern who does a lot of like the historical science around alcohol, specifically in like Egypt area, and he's helped them trace back how they made that drink, and then Dogfish Head recreated it.
What?
Yeah.
The fuck?
Peter McGovern is super cool.
That is crazy.
Yeah. We should get some.
We should definitely get some. I've always liked Dogfish Head.
Yeah.
Dogfish Head is a brewery, for anyone not listening, or for anyone who's not paying attention. Anyone who does not know Dogfish Head, they make like 120-minute IPA, 60-minute IPA, 30-minute IPA. Those were their first like three big beers that kind of made them famous.
Yeah.
But wow, that's incredible. I never knew that.
Yeah.
And I love mead.
Right.
Mead is fantastic. If anybody has not drank mead in their life, you should definitely go get some good mead. There's a mead bar on the north side of Milwaukee. It's actually in Shorewood, which is like a northern suburb of Milwaukee, but you wouldn't really be able to tell. They have a mead bar, which is fucking amazing.
That's so cool.
They only sell mead.
I love that.
It's great. Yeah.
We're going to go to Milwaukee.
Yeah. I also wanted to go back real quick to another fun fact about Angostura.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but Angostura bitters, most people would recognize the bottle if you've been in a bar, if you've ever had an old fashioned, if you've ever had a Manhattan. They also have something very particular and very special about their bottle, right? They have, I don't know if it's an agreement or whatever it might be, but they are the only ones that actually, when you look at the bottle, I think the story is that it was like originally made and the label was too big or something like that. So what they did is they kind of just squeezed it and like wrapped it around the head of the neck of the bottle.
Yeah.
So now whenever you buy, and then that just kind of stuck and it became a thing. I don't know if that's the exact story, but you can probably tell me better.
I've heard a story about this. But
Yes.
So there were two brothers who were working or like who co-owned Angostura or were part of the family. And there was some like bottling graphic design before it was graphic design competition. And they wanted to enter Angostura into it. And so they agreed that one of the brothers would make the bottle and one would make the label, but they hadn't talked about the sizing. So the one made the label too big.
The one made the brother?
The one made the brother. I'm sober right now. Can you believe that? But one made the label too big, or the other one made the bottle too small. I might argue that the bottle is too small.
Bottle's too small, man.
Yeah,
Come on.
That's the problem. So that's the story, and that is a story that I've heard.
Yeah. So that when they actually entered the competition, it was like the only thing they could do was just
Last minute, they were like, squeeze it. Sure.
wrap it around the bottle. And
Supposedly they won, but
I mean, it's cool. It's a cool idea.
yeah.
And now that you look at it, you're like, this is weird, but it's also, I fuck with it,
It's very noticeable.
I also like the texture of the paper that they use for the label. And I actually do like that it's kind of wrapped up. It's like you grab it and you're like, oh yeah, that's Angostura for sure.
Yeah.
It's like a crumply piece of label
Yeah.
paper around the top.
Yeah. Like a little
White
present.
label, very dark brown bottle, yellow cap for all of those people listening. If you are not watching the video, I mean, I don't have it here either, but
You'll go find it.
you know, you can imagine in your head, I guess.
You've seen it. You've seen it for sure.
And if you haven't,
Go to a bar.
you can go fucking die.
Harsh. Very harsh.
Go to a bar. Go to a bar for the first time here.
I feel like there was a question that I was supposed to be answering, and this is how I get through an hour and a half class without ever teaching anything. Is just having little back pocket stories. But what do you need to make a cocktail, or how do I?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the 4 base. Yeah, I asked you about like the base ingredients for a cocktail, right? That's not just like alcohol and soda, right? Yeah. And then you told me about the 3 that you typically teach, and the bases for those.
Yeah.
And I asked you what your favorite like ingredients were to use.
Yeah.
And also, I think we still kind of need to like hit on the 3 or 4 bases of like a cocktail, like a sweet, an acidic, blah blah blah.
So one thing I know everyone's like very anti-sugar, but sugar's use in cocktails is more for its texture, and it's usually used in a syrup because it's much easier to work with rather than like hard sugar. Because when it gets cold, obviously it doesn't dissolve into the cocktail as well. But alcohol is about 78% the weight of water. So it's already at this sort of deficit where if you put it in your mouth, like if you take a shot, it feels like it's already evaporating off of your tongue. It's very light. It's doesn't have this like rich texture that can sort of coat your mouth. So adding sugar, which is sort of the base of the old fashioned, is you're just like putting the suit and tie on a spirit. You're helping to add that weight so that you can take that sip and let it coat your mouth. And then the bitters are there to bring some balance back to the drink. And that was the original cocktail. That is what the word cocktail meant, is spirit, bitter, sugar. That is it. And it was originally made or written about by Jerry Thomas in the 1800s. And the first one in his list of cocktails was made with gin. It was called the Holland cocktail. So I always talk about how I like a paint by numbers idea of cocktails. I think if you like whiskey and I like tequila, we can both have an old fashioned. I would just have mine with tequila. And and I can even have it with an aged one if you think that old fashions have to be with aged spirits. There is aged tequila. But but really I like the idea that like you just take these templates and just completely change them. But keeping the same ratios, same concept, same some bitter, some sweet. You know, I can flavor that sweetener. I can split the base so that it's I put, instead of 2 ounces of whiskey, I do a half ounce of tequila, a half ounce of mezcal, a half ounce of cognac, and a half ounce of scotch. And like, let's see what that tastes like. Long Island of old fashions might be a little gross, but we might as well try it, you know? So I like to say that I'm the Bob Ross of cocktails, because no mistakes, just happy little accidents. And when you have these templates, it's just happy little accidents. So there's the old fashioned, the original cocktail, the name coming from putting a little pep in your step and cocking your tail up. And then there's the sour, which, fresh lemon and lime juice are very important.
Very, very important.
There's no substitute. But it's easy enough to juice a lime. Just saying.
It is. It is very easy to juice a lime.
Yeah. So especially if you're making one cocktail for yourself or for your friends. If you're starting to get into batch cocktails, that's when you can consider buying some very good, not from concentrate juices, like cheeky cocktails. And then, so a sour is lemon or lime juice and some sweetener and a spirit. And those are always shaken because you always want this like nice frothy top on top, which you can really only get from shaking with ice. Right.
Also important for diluting.
Yeah, exactly.
Also important for diluting the cocktail as well. We do want a little bit, depending on the cocktail, you do want that dilution of water as well.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But that's sort of the basis of any cocktail that we put on a menu is, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel, because it will never, it's like, these are tried and true and people have tried them and they are true. So, if I want to like add in a modifier, like in a margarita, it is a sour, it's a tequila sour, but with some orange liqueur. And then you consider, you add orange liqueur, which has some sweetness to it. So you pull back on the sweetener that you add to the cocktail. And that's your margarita template. And then let's say I want to make a totally new cocktail, but I want to pair a grapefruit flavor and a rosemary flavor. Maybe I add some rosemary bitters, and instead of orange liqueur, I use a grapefruit liqueur or grapefruit juice and add that on top. And it's all like written in the stars already. Like, it's all sort of there for you. You just, play around with balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the more you drink, just like the more you are able to taste different foods and stuff like that, the more you kind of develop that palate, especially, if we want to even talk about palate for wine or anything like that. Like, in order to have a palate for wine, you need to drink a lot of wine or at least taste a lot of wine. So yeah, I mean, just like when it comes down to making that cocktail, going back to, when I think about palate and everything that you've just talked about and the ingredients that you've talked about, it always makes me think about lemon and lime juice, just like you were speaking about, not getting it from concentrate.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the first step
in
developing your cocktail palate. Like,
Yeah.
do not go to a bar that uses lemon or lime
Yeah.
from concentrate.
Or
It's
just-
not real flavor.
Yeah.
Like,
When you're
it
there,
is
order a vodka soda.
gross. And just get a vodka soda.
Yeah.
Or something simple that's not using these, these acids.
Yeah. I mean, some of my favorite
Huge
bars
difference.
are dive bars that would look at you sideways if you ordered a daiquiri because
Yeah.
they don't use those things.
Right.
You're like, that's fine. I'll have my vodka soda, my whiskey,
Just
my
give me
whatever.
a shot in a beer.
Yeah, just-
or a vodka or
You got
tequila
this.
soda. Whatever. Yeah.
But then I do have ingredients that I call like cheater ingredients. So there's like one of my favorites is Braulio. It's super. It's an Italian Amaro, which means bitter, but it has this really dynamic, almost like cured meaty flavor. It's got like a lot of like roasted like spice flavors, like a cooked rosemary and like thyme. As well as the sort of classic like gentian, which is a very bitter root that's in almost every Amaro. So that's always fun. In any citrusy cocktail, I think it adds a really interesting element.
I can taste it now.
It was in the Blind Tiger.
Barrio. No. What was it called?
Braulio.
Braulio. I actually haven't had Braulio.
Really?
No. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe if I saw the bottle, I'd recognize it, but
Yeah, you've used it. It's in a Tots cocktail. So maybe you didn't drink it, but
There you go.
it was you picked up that bottle.
I didn't work there.
Yeah. You didn't learn the cocktails.
I didn't.
You actively avoided.
I'm going to be honest with you. It took a
like-
long time for me to learn those cocktails.
That's fair. There were a lot of them.
That's true.
That was
There were. I'm like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn whatever is getting ordered the most, and then we'll be okay.
Yeah.
If I need to ask somebody the ingredients for something, I'll do that, or I'll pull up my phone.
I'm starting to remember why we put you on late nights.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in that way, you find what your bartenders are good at and what your team is good at, and then
Yeah.
you find what your guest wants.
You're right.
And you have to put those like 4 cocktails that are like your margarita variation, your very cutesy vodka cocktail,
Yeah.
your gin something, and then like something stirred with whiskey
Yep.
for the
Yep.
guy who's on a date.
Yep. 1,000%. Those are the 4
And that
key
you
to
once you
having
get
a good
those,
cocktail bar.
you can have your like 22 other weird ass cocktails that
Right.
like
Right.
that rarely get ordered but are fun to have.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know what just happened out there.
Someone got really excited about our menu.
We have a fan outside of the studio.
Mm-hmm.
That just
Good morning, America.
yeah. Yeah. We have crowds are forming, hearing about these cocktails and the ingredients, and we're kind of afraid for our lives right now.
Just a little.
But anybody, but somebody outside is very happy. They're learning. Again, this is the exact reason why we have this podcast. But yeah, no, those 4. That's. I love that you said that, because those 4 basic, like, cocktails for your menu are exactly what you need.
Yeah.
The margarita,
Yeah.
the stirred cocktail, the fruity something basic where a girl's just gonna love.
Yeah.
And then
Your Sex and the City babes.
Yeah. And then your gin, like
for
yeah.
the people who came from the UK and are like, "Oh, I just need a cocktail that like looks like something that I've had at home." You're like, I got you, girl. I got you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. What's your favorite cocktail?
Oof.
And this is the worst question to ask a bartender when you're ordering a drink, by the way. Don't ever ask your bartender this question, because they're never going to give you an honest answer. They're going to tell you the cocktail that is what? The easiest to make. Exactly.
Yeah, that. I
So which
love a vodka soda.
yeah.
My favorite drink ever.
what's your favorite cocktail to make? Tequila shot.
Yeah.
What's your favorite drink? Tequila soda.
Expensive and easy. That's my nickname in high school.
But From bartender to
real?
bartender, you
And
know.
I don't have to make it, but it's my favorite.
And you don't have to make it if
Okay.
now that I'm asking you.
I would say a penicillin.
Penicillin's your favorite to make.
Yeah. A favorite to have.
Favorite to have.
Yeah.
Penicillin's your favorite cocktail. Cool.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Can you explain to the people what's in a penicillin?
Yeah. It's a honey ginger syrup,
Mm-hmm.
lemon.
Mm-hmm.
What if I just forgot right now and I couldn't
All
do it?
right. I'd have your back.
Thank you. Blended scotch in the shaken drink, and then
Right.
there is a float or a spray of peated scotch. So something like Lafroig, or we used Ardbeg in ours.
Mm-hmm. Something a bit smokier.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I really love that.
For a blended scotch, if anyone's wondering, that's more like your Johnny Walker Blacks.
Yeah.
Just something very basic.
Yeah.
That you know.
Yeah.
Anybody who doesn't drink scotch would know Johnny Walker Black. Like
Yeah.
these are your
Which is a
basic.
Diageo product. Callback.
Yep.
But yeah, and like Johnny Walker Black was made to be like that drink where someone gets off of work at 5:00, goes to their neighborhood bar, or goes to any bar in the world and orders a Johnny Black, and it tastes just like a Johnny Black. And
Right.
it's like easy,
Right.
well balanced. It's got a ton of scotches in it. It's blended with tons of scotches, but they all work so cohesively that it's just like this sort of quintessential scotch flavor.
Right.
Yeah. So in the drink, it blends really nicely, really easily. The honey gives it something almost a little floral with the sweetness, and then the ginger gives it a little bit of a spice that just like both sit on either side of the scotch flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And just sort of like, it's super simple, but they blend really easily.
Yeah.
And then on top, you get this like strong nose of like barbecue on a beach. And I love it.
Yeah. It's a great drink. So that's your favorite to drink. That's your favorite cocktail.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you actually like enjoy making or like enjoy showing or having somebody watch you make? Cause you're like, you're going to love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of depends on the guest, I think. But I do like, I always like surprising people with something that they've never tried, but in a way that's palatable to them. Like if like we were talking about Braulio, like that flavor on its own is so intense and strange and like I still find it strange on its own, and I've drank a lot of it.
Yeah.
But then blending that into something that's like a sour, but using Braulio, even though it's traditionally maybe more of a modifier in cocktails, using that as the base and having them try that, it's like a little more exciting in that like it's challenging them, but it is doing it in a way that's like feels homey. It feels like another drink that they've had before, just with like a new element.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what makes a good bartender.
Thank you.
Like you got to know your crowd,
Yeah.
know your guest.
Yeah.
If anybody makes or asks me to, make them something, it's like asking. That's like me asking you. I don't know. Tell me a car. Tell me a car that I should drive. Like,
Yeah.
there's hundreds of cars.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, it's so subjective. It's
Yeah.
like I don't know what you don't know what I want.
Yeah. It's like
out
hitting
of my
like
car.
shuffle on Netflix.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen Netflix, even with all of its data on me. Pick anything that I would ever
Tell
actually
me
want to
something.
watch.
Tell me something good to watch.
Yeah. And it knows so much about me already.
Yeah. But you have to be so specific when you're, dealing with a customer when it comes to something that they want to drink because, that's just such a specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can sit through a fucking, a shitty. There's more risk,
Mm-hmm.
right? You make somebody something shitty, they give it back to you. You have to remake them something. They don't like it. Then it's like, okay, are these people going to tip me? Like, what's going to happen here? Now am I going to get into this like maybe get into a weird argument with them?
Yeah. And there's like 20 people behind them who are pissed.
And there's people sitting there waiting for drinks, and it's like, Jesus Christ, like, what am I supposed to do here? What am I, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You usually just go for the fucking something basic, something, you judge people.
Yeah.
You definitely judge people.
Yeah, this is...
Depending on how they talk to me, but depending on how they're ordering with me, depending on what they're wearing, I'm like looking at their body language. I'm like, okay, you're going to like a Moscow Mule.
Yeah.
You're going to like a margarita. They're like, oh, what was that? You might do something a little just to change it, a little spice.
Put something pink in there, yeah.
Maybe I'll just smash a jalapeno quick just to give your margarita just a little bit of spice.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and they're like, what is that? And you're like, a spicy margarita. 'Cause that's
like,
what everyone likes.
Oh, yeah, I've had this before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, you probably have. But, you know, it still blows your mind when you taste it just because you thought I was making you something special.
Yeah. It's also knowing the guy who will not drink anything out of a coupe or a stemmed glass.
Right.
And you're like,
too girly.
I will put
too girly. I don't want to look gay.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to look like a fag.
I'll put the sweetest little drink in a rocks glass for you, and you will love it.
Right.
But if I put it up,
exactly,
you'll be like, that's not it.
Yeah.
Try again.
You make them a little fucking, a nice little gin pea flower with a little fucking flour on top. They're like,
sure, bud. Yeah.
That shit's hilarious.
Just really mess with people.
I would do that sometimes, though. That's great.
Yeah.
That's always good fun.
Yeah.
Depending on who it is, right? You got to weigh your options.
Yeah.
Well, brother, tell the people where they can find you. Give them your Instagram, your website, where they can contact you for classes.
Yeah.
If you want to tell them where you work, which I'm sure they already know where you work by now at this point, but, you can tell them that. Tell them to come visit you if you want people stalking you.
Yeah.
All that
Always
kind of shit. Tell the people what they want.
I'm pretty active on Instagram. My Instagram is someone's problem. That's me. Yeah, I just love giving that out at bars. People are like, oh, my problem now. And I'm like, just you wait. I'm going to ruin you.
This is just the start.
And my link tree is in there with my work in progress website that my manager friend hates so far. So I'm working on it, I promise. And my email's on there as well. Everything's on Instagram. Someone's problem.
That's it. Just at someone's problem. No, nothing special. No.
I somehow got that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you're
like
special.
5 years ago. I was like, this has to be available. I need it.
And we're now getting a glimpse of how psychotic Aaron is. Who wants to be anyone's problem?
I don't know.
He
I'm like
does.
waiting for someone to be like, this is unprofessional. Can you change it? I'm like, fine.
Hell no. Fuck that.
So far, so good.
Don't cave in.
Yeah.
Please don't.
I won't.
Never do.
I'll keep it forever.
Perfect.
But yeah, I work at LeBain. I work at Worthwild on Tuesdays.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Come by.
Tuesday
They
nights
just
at
launched a new
Worthwild
menu.
in Chelsea. Where is that located?
19th and 9th. 19th Street and 9th Avenue.
In Manhattan, New York City.
New York, New York.
There you go. Shout outs to Raymond and Jeff, the co-owners of Worthwild. So many great people over there. Great food.
Yeah.
Great cocktails. Great environment.
Yeah.
Good people, everything.
Yeah.
One of my favorite restaurants to go to in New York. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Aaron, I think we've had one too many. Conversations, no one's
Probably. Well, I keep going on tangents, so, is it over?
No,
I don't know.
It's officially over. I'm fucking cutting it off right now.
Okay, that's good. That's probably for the best.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I could probably see you soon at work.
That's probably true.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Cheers, and raise your glass. One too many. Hear ye, hear ye. Cheers, darlings.
Cheers.
One, two,